Imagine if the government knocked on Apple's door and said you have to share the iPhone's technology with everyone. That's basically what just happened to Meta, except it's about artificial intelligence models. According to recent reporting, the government of the United States is urging Meta to open source or more widely share its AI models with the world. This isn't a casual suggestion. It's coming from officials who are thinking about national AI strategy. And it raises an immediate question. Why would the government push one of the world's most powerful companies to give away its most advanced technology? Here's the twist. Meta's AI models are genuinely impressive. We are talking Llama 2, Llama 3, cutting-edge systems that can compete with OpenAI and Google. But unlike those competitors, Meta has taken a very open approach, already releasing many of its models to developers and researchers worldwide. Yet the government apparently wants even more transparency and access. The core tension is this: Meta poured billions into building these models, and now there's pressure to make them even more available to competitors, researchers, and potentially hostile actors. At the same time, there's a national security and competitive argument on the other side. The United States wants to ensure that AI development isn't locked behind corporate walls and that American AI innovation stays distributed, resilient, and accessible. This story touches on something nobody's talking about: the collision between corporate innovation and government strategy in AI. And here's where it gets interesting. To understand why the United States government cares about Meta's AI models, you need to know what's actually at stake. Meta didn't build Llama just to make Facebook and Instagram smarter. The company is positioning itself as a serious AI competitor to OpenAI, which makes ChatGPT and Google's AI research division. These three companies represent the cutting edge of large language models, the AI technology that can write code, answer questions, generate images, and automate massive swaths of knowledge work. The government's concern isn't really about Meta's motives. It's about what happens when all the best AI lives inside a handful of corporate boardrooms. Right now, OpenAI controls ChatGPT. Google controls Gemini. That means two companies have enormous influence over what AI can do and who gets access. Meta wants in on that power, and it's been making bold moves, releasing open models, building its own AI chips, and publishing research. But here's the thing. If AI becomes genuinely transformative for the economy and society, and most experts think it will, then having it concentrated in just a few corporations feels like a national risk. It's like saying all the electricity in America comes from three companies. If one falters, gets corrupted by bad incentives, or faces pressure from hostile nations, everyone suffers. The government's push to get Meta to share more is basically saying, we want a backup plan. We want American AI to be resilient and distributed. Here's the twist nobody expected. Now, when officials say they want Meta to share its models, what does that actually mean? There are a few ways to interpret this. The most aggressive interpretation is that Meta should open source everything, release the full model weights and code so that anyone, anywhere, can run Llama locally on their own computers. Meta's actually already doing some of this. Llama 2 and Llama 3 are available to researchers and developers. You can download them, modify them, and build products on top. But sharing can mean other things too. It could mean making the models accessible through an API where researchers get free access. It could mean partnering with universities and government labs. It could mean putting safeguards in place so that bad actors don't use the technology to build surveillance systems or disinformation engines. Here's the complication: open sourcing AI models is genuinely risky. If you release the weights of a powerful language model, malicious actors can use it to generate convincing fake videos, toxic content, or train specialized systems to break into computer networks. It's not like releasing the code to Firefox, where the worst case is someone forks it and adds adware. Releasing AI models is more like open sourcing the blueprints to a powerful tool that could be weaponized. Meta's already had to make tough calls about safety. The company didn't initially share every version with everyone because they wanted to test safeguards first. Let me give you some real-world examples of what this tension looks like. First, consider the precedent. In the 1990s, when the internet was exploding, the government pushed for open standards and interoperability. Companies had to share protocols, technical specifications, and basic infrastructure. That openness led to explosive innovation. The web, email, and all the applications we built on top, those flourished because nobody could lock them down. But AI is different because it's more dangerous. Back in 2022, there was huge debate around GPT-2. OpenAI initially didn't release it because they worried it could be used for coordinated disinformation at scale. They eventually released it, and researchers found ways to use it responsibly, but also found ways to misuse it. The cat was out of the bag. Now apply that to Llama. Meta's already released versions to researchers, and the community has built all sorts of things, some genuinely helpful, some alarming. Malicious actors have fine-tuned it to generate harmful content. That's the risk of openness. On the flip side, there's the innovation argument. Companies in the United States that use Meta's models to build products have already created incredible applications: medical AI, research tools, productivity software. That competitive ecosystem wouldn't exist if Llama was locked behind Meta's walls. The government seems to be betting that the innovation upside outweighs the security downside. But the examples show how this isn't a simple good versus evil choice. It's a genuine trade-off, and that's just the beginning. So how does Meta's situation compare to what's happening with OpenAI and Google? This is where things get really interesting because the three companies have taken completely different approaches. OpenAI, which makes ChatGPT, has been more protective. ChatGPT is only available through OpenAI's website or API. You can't download the model weights. You can't run it locally. OpenAI argues this keeps better control over safety and prevents misuse. But it also keeps power concentrated in one company. Google's strategy is somewhere in the middle. Gemini, their flagship model, is available through Google Cloud, but Google also released Gemini Nano as open source in certain contexts. Google spreads its bets because it owns so much infrastructure, data centers, servers, cloud computing, that even if you run models locally, you're still probably relying on Google's ecosystem somehow. Meta's approach is radically different. Release everything and move fast. Llama is available, community developers are building on it, and Meta seems less worried about perfect safety. The company argues that having thousands of eyes on the technology makes it safer, not riskier, because researchers find and fix problems faster. The government's push on Meta is interesting because it's basically saying we want your model to be even more like an open-source project than it already is. That's a statement about which company philosophy the government prefers. It's not saying Google, lock down Gemini. It's saying Meta, go even harder on openness. That's a strong political signal. Here's what the headlines aren't telling you. Let's imagine Meta agrees and shares its models even more widely than it already has. What happens? The most optimistic outcome: American AI innovation explodes. Universities, startups, and independent researchers build amazing applications. The technology spreads globally, but American companies maintain a lead in applications and services. The United States stays competitive against China and Europe in the AI race. But there are darker scenarios too. If Meta's models become truly ubiquitous, every potential use case gets covered, including malicious ones. You're not just enabling a researcher at Stanford to build better medical AI. You're also enabling someone in a hostile nation to build better surveillance technology or train AI to generate disinformation that destabilizes democracies. There's also a corporate angle. If Meta is forced to make its models massively available, that removes one of Meta's competitive advantages. The company invested tens of billions in AI research. If the government essentially forces Meta to give away the advantage, why would Meta continue investing at the same pace? This could actually slow down AI progress at Meta, which hurts the entire ecosystem. And here's the geopolitical wrinkle. If the United States government pushes American companies to share, other nations will notice. China won't demand Chinese tech companies share their models with Western researchers. That could put American companies at a disadvantage in the long term. If you want to understand how this story actually plays out, here are the things to watch for. First, the negotiations themselves. Is Meta going to cave to pressure quietly, or is this going to become a public fight? If Meta pushes back, that signals the company believes sharing more would hurt its business or safety goals. If Meta agrees quickly, that signals the government has leverage, maybe through regulatory pressure or national security reviews. Second, watch for other government action. Does this urging get formalized into policy? Are there tax incentives for companies that open source their AI, regulations against companies that keep models locked down? The language matters enormously. A casual suggestion is very different from a mandate. Third, track what other companies do. If Meta goes more open, will OpenAI feel pressure to open ChatGPT more? Will Google make Gemini more accessible? The choices each company makes will shape the entire landscape of AI development for the next decade. Fourth, monitor the actual safeguards. Even if Meta does share more, you'll want to know what safety filters are in place. Are there restrictions on what uses are permitted? Are researchers who get access verified and vetted? The details of implementation matter as much as the policy itself. And finally, watch for any evidence that this helps or hurts innovation. Here's what this whole situation means, and it's something that'll affect you whether you realize it or not. The battle between corporate control and open access in AI is one of the defining questions of the next decade. It'll determine which countries lead in AI development, which companies build the most powerful systems, and ultimately, which philosophy, openness, or control makes AI safer and more beneficial. Meta's Llama models are a perfect case study because they are already in the middle of that tension. Meta invested billions, built incredible technology, and is being asked to give more away. That's a microcosm of the larger question. In a competitive world, how much can companies be forced to share without destroying their incentive to innovate? The United States government's position is a bet. It's betting that distributed OpenAI is safer and more strategically sound than concentrated AI. It might be right, but it might also be underestimating the safety risks of widely available powerful models or overestimating how much companies will actually innovate if they can't capture returns on investment. The next few months will tell us a lot. Will Meta comply? How far will it go? Will other governments follow suit? Will this actually accelerate AI progress? Or will it create security headaches? For you, the viewer, watch how this resolves. It's not boring corporate politics. It's the actual shaping of how AI technology gets built and deployed in the world.